Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred Minnick here, and today I am going to review the latest from Four Roses, their limited edition small batch, the 135th anniversary limited edition. And I want you to take a look at this. They gave you this like media box they sent me. They broke it down of what we have here. We have a 25-year-old OBSV. We have a 16-year-old OESV. We have a 12-year-old OESV and a 14-year-old OESK. So, I mean, they are bringing it this year. Now, this media kit that I got is loaded. So they have the bottles in here, and then they have the actual components of the blend or the batch, the composition. So they have each one of these. They have the 25-year-old, the 14-year, 16-year, and 12-year. Now, that is the first time they have done this. They have always sent a sample, but they've never sent one quite like this, like where you have all of, basically what's it called, the reverse engineering of it. So this is pretty exciting for me. Now, I'm going to taste this here on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to put these over. I'm going to taste these in my membership club. So, Club Marzipan, you all be expecting to see this for some of the exclusive content this month. If you want to learn how to join Club Marzipan, you can learn about it in the description here. But I'm getting really good about reviewing things that is more kind of educational in there. So we do a lot of educational tastings in there. And my whole goal with Club Marzipan is not about bottle chasing. It's not about the barrel picks that I do, even though the barrel picks are cool. It's about educating people and teaching people and using my contacts to help them pursue their knowledge of whiskey. So that's what I'm all about there. But so I want to tell you a little bit about Four Roses. First of all, you should know that they have made what I consider to be the greatest bourbon of this century. I'll put a link to that video in the description. But I did the best bourbons of the century so far, I think at the height of the pandemic. And this was this whiskey would have came out 10 years ago now. But I cannot get over how good that 125th anniversary Four Roses limited edition small batch was. And a couple things about Four Roses. This is the part of me being me, how I do my channels. I like to educate. I like to give history. So if you're just here for my tasting notes, I'm probably not the best channel for you to follow, but you're going to find a where I start talking about just tasting the whiskey. First, I'm going to open this thing now. Let that thing air out for a second. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Four Roses. So Four Roses was this really important brand coming out of Prohibition. It got acquired by Seagram's, and Seagram's wanted to focus on another distillery or another brand that they had in their portfolio called Crown Royal. So when Seagram's decided to put their focus on Crown Royal, and Seagram's was a blending house, they didn't put a lot of effort into straight bourbon whiskey, which was the focus of Kentucky. When they decided to break away from this mindset of selling straight whiskey and focus on blends like Crown Royal out of Canada, they decided to take Four Roses off the U.S. market. The Four Roses bourbon, that is. Now, they still made Four Roses blended whiskey. Four Roses blended whiskey was available throughout the 60s and 70s, 80s, and it was just absolute rubbish. It was made in Maryland. It was just awful. And, of course, this was not whiskey as we know it today. It wasn't out of blended straights. It was majority of grain-neutral spirit and some straight whiskey. They just basically pulverized that brand. But, again, Seagram's was not a straight whiskey company. They were a blended whiskey company. But they did let Four Roses live overseas. And they did sell Four Roses bourbon in Japan, Spain, France, and for a time, they were the best-selling bourbon overseas. And then Seagram's goes out of business. They basically get split up by split up to Diageo and Pernod Ricard, and little brands here and there got plucked. And Kirin, a Japanese like spirits and beer manufacturer, acquired the rights to Four Roses, and they bought the distillery, and they knew the whiskey well because it did quite well in Japan. And so when they took over Four Roses, everything changed, and they had this incredible master distiller named Jim Rutledge, who today is a part of Blue Run. He's got his own brand out there called Cream of Kentucky, but he was like this spark plug for bourbon. Kentucky bourbon really needed Jim Rutledge. Like, he brought a sense of passion, love, and an incredible palate and whiskey making abilities that we needed, man. We needed that in the early 2000s, and he brought that to Four Roses. And they also had this iconic brand ambassador, may he rest in peace, Al Young. And Al Young was like a distillery plant manager. He's not like the brand ambassadors today who are former bartenders and are out there talking about the products they're educated. But Al Young was like, this guy ran the distillery. He knew his whiskey. And so you had these two figureheads, these two Bourbon Hall of Famers running Four Roses. And it was this incredible, incredible time because people were just getting to learn about Four Roses. And they were learning about the 10 recipes and how the 10 recipes came from other distilleries closing and Seagram's wanting to make up for those recipes and using new styles of yeast. So, and I'll put a link in the description if you want to read more about the history of Four Roses. I could go on and on and on and on about this, but I'm telling you, the Four Roses is such an important brand for the rebirth of American whiskey in the early 2000s because they were bringing a new flavor profile and talking about bourbon in the high rye sense that we had not heard before. And you had Al Young and Jim Rutledge educating people about how whiskey was made, not the backstory. They were talking about yeast. They were talking about corn. And they really started changing the dynamic of how distilleries talked about their whiskey. It went from being like, and this, you have this on the, the ocean front. They changed it to the nitty gritty of whiskey. And it was such a beautiful thing to watch. They released their single barrel, then their small batch. And then they started coming out with these limited edition small batches. I'm just telling you, every single year, this limited edition small batch is a Whiskey of the Year contender. For me, for Whiskey Advocate, for Whiskey Magazine, for the San Francisco World Spirits Competition, for my competition, the American Spirits Council of Tasters. Like this bottle right here, this is, it's kind of like when Aaron Judge gets up to the plate. He can hit a homer anytime. He was when Kevin Mitchell got up on the plate in the late 80s. That man could hit a homer anytime. Of course, we know he was juicing now, but back then, man, Kevin Mitchell could hit a homer for a San Francisco Giants. And you're like, whoa, man, look how far he hit that. I loved Kevin Mitchell back in the day. Anyway, so here we are. I do not know the percentage of the blend. It was not in the materials I was given. Let's see if it's on this bottle. That has some small print. Let's see if you can see it there. I'm going to put it there. And, yeah, look at that. So this is the media sample that I got. And, again, the components of these are I'm going to taste for my Club Marzipan group and talk about whether or not I think they could have been better by themselves or if it's better in this. So here we go. This is such a hard time of year because I get all these whiskeys and, I know people are like, oh, you get free samples. I've been doing this for a long time. And believe me, I really don't get that excited about getting packages as like early in my career. But there are certain releases that I get excited to open that box and taste. And Four Roses limited edition small batch is right at the top. Okay, so this smells like a cinnamon roll like coming out of the oven and you're putting some icing on it, you know. Ooh. Boy, that smells spicy. Good Lord. That smells so spicy. There's a gnat flying around here. Like, dude, this is my bourbon. Get away. My bourbon. I don't know if you could see the little gnat flying around, but it's not cool, gnat. I'm in the middle of recording a tasting video, guy. Why don't you wait till you fall in the whiskey? You know, it's good if a gnat wants to get in there. Okay. Cinnamon roll. I think I said that, but I'm not getting. I'm just kind of stuck. I'm kind of stuck on the cinnamon roll. I'm stuck there. I'm just gonna say that. Shit, this is good. This is really good. Butterscotch. Like a ganache, like chocolate ganache. An oatmeal cream pie. Maybe a moon pie. And then, you know, I talked about this on the nose, but there's cinnamon there, but it's not a cinnamon roll. It's just like a cinnamon toothpick. But you have like these real nice fatty desserts in the moon pie, oatmeal cream pie. You know, what was the other thing I said? The chocolate ganache, butterscotch. I mean, those four things right there are that's the backbone of this flavor profile. First of all, it's completely coating my palate. It's entirely drenching my tongue. Like, it is like back, front, underneath, curling up underneath my jawline, tickling the roof of my palate. I feel it slowly kind of going down. And remember, there's a difference between alcohol burn and spice. An alcohol burn is like a 9-volt battery on your tongue. A spice is like a little bit of a hot sauce. Not the flavor, but the intensity of it. And I can just feel that spice just kind of dripping down all the way down my esophagus and into my belly. And I find that very, very comforting. I'm wanting to find something else in here. I want to taste it again. I feel like I'm stuck in that kind of like sweet pattern, and my palate's not able to get as much out of the spice that I think is there. I'm kind of like stuck in that moon pie, oatmeal cream pie, butterscotch, chocolate ganache. I'm stuck there, and I get it. I get the cinnamon, but there's more to this. There's more to this bourbon than those 5 things. I get bananas Foster. That's what it is. There's some fruitiness there. I thought that additional note was going to be a spice. The cinnamon's just carrying it. If there's another spice there, I'm not detecting it over the cinnamon. It's a very powerful cinnamon note, but that I am getting some banana notes, some banana forward notes, like maybe a banana cream pie, maybe. I'm just gonna stay in that kind of pie thing. I'm gonna say I said bananas Foster at first, but I think it's probably a little bit better to say banana cream pie, which a Bananas Foster is a little bit more caramelly, a little bit more sugary, and a cream pie is a little bit more, pudding, a little bit more authentic to the flavor of a banana. At least that's my experience. But yeah, that's 6 solid notes there that I can give you on this tasting. 7 if you want to include the Bananas Foster. But this is fantastic. It's dynamite. Is this the best Four Roses limited edition small batch I've ever had? No, it's not. The one 10 years ago, I can close my eyes and think about it. But I will say that this will be a contender. This will be a contender for my, the upper echelon of my top 100. I imagine this will be on the finalist list for most of the major rewards that come out in the fall. It is exceptional. It's delicious, and I'm excited to taste the parts of this. See what this 25-year-old OBSV tastes like. I'm really excited about that. But I gotta say, there's 1 year that since they have been doing this limited edition small batch that I didn't like it, and I think that was, and I think even then I scored it to 90 points, and I think I was with that Whiskey Advocate then. And I was like, I didn't like it as much as I liked the other ones, but you have to realize when you're dealing with these high level can't miss bourbons like this, you judge them a little harsher than if it was, say, a craft distiller. Why do you do that? Because you have a higher expectation of them. Now, when you do a blind, you don't have that, the background, the history there to go along with it. So the blind tasting for this will tell the tale of where I really do put it. But knowing what I'm tasting right now, knowing the history of Four Roses, knowing how my palate works with this right now, I think it's great. I don't think it's as great as some of their other releases, but I probably put it in that upper third. So it's not the best, but it's better than most of them. But I also have high standards when it comes to the Four Roses limited edition small batch. After all, the best bourbon I've tasted in the 21st century that was made in the get out of here, Nat, get out of here, was a Four Roses product. But that's going to do it here, folks. I'm gonna finish this one off in silence, and then I'm going to taste the components of this for my membership community, Club Marzipan. If you're not a member, come check us out. We have a lot of fun together, and we even got a trip to Key West coming up. Not everybody's going, but a handful are. So it's going to be a good time. But thank you for tuning in. If you're not a subscriber yet, click the subscribe button, tell a friend, and just remember that vodka sucks unless it's being used to clean up the murder scene of a dead cat and possibly a rabbit. Cheers.